All right, it's a Thursday night and we're back to our spotlight. We missed a couple of weeks, but it's great to be back. And what better guest than to have Melissa Olivas with us for tonight. So, hi, Melissa, how are you?
I'm doing well, John. How are you?
I'm doing good. And we got co-host Bob Gamble. Hey, Bob, how's it going?
Going fine, thank you. Just getting ready for heading up to Oregon, like half of the
Oh,
club.
yeah.
But yeah, we're all doing very, very well.
Yeah, you and half the club are going up there, so
Right.
that'll be fun. So this is going to be great to have Melissa on because Melissa has been part of the triathlon community for a long time and really has had such a neat sort of path in her triathlon. I don't know the full story, and so I'm actually looking forward to hearing more about Melissa's journey in triathlon. So before I get going too far, though, I'm going to turn it over to Bob for the official introduction.
All right, thank you, John. And again, welcome, Melissa. I really appreciate you um, coming on and doing this. And I actually have to apologize for ambushing you at the swim meet at the swim on Saturday. And I said, "Oh, you're Melissa Olivas." So we got to have you on the spotlight. So thank you very much for being on here.
Yes, we
Uh,
did have to twist her arm a little bit to do this, so she was
Both of
avoiding
us, yeah.
us.
Yeah, John and I, for everybody out there, John and I had to. She's very humble and a little bit shy, so we had to twist her arm a little bit. But thanks so much for being on here, and for everybody listening, Melissa has got a very impressive resume. Very very humble and very just a wonderful person to be around. But
Mhm.
she has done triathlon since 2007, joined the club in 2008, been doing this for 16 years now, and has gone to world nationals, the long course national championship, and then went on to, correct me if I'm wrong, Melissa, to worlds twice.
Yes.
And you did very well in those worlds with some pretty amazing times. So Melissa's is quite a stellar athlete as well. So thank you so much for being on. But I do have to ask you, back in 2007, what on earth made you get into triathlon in the first place? Why did you
Well,
want to do that?
first of all, thank you for the both of you for the nice introductions and for all that you do to make this club amazing. I mean, when I first joined, it was nothing like it is now. And through the efforts of all the people over the years since then, it's developed into something so wonderful. And you guys have really done a stellar job. So I cannot say no to you. So I'm happy to be here talking to you because I really appreciate everything you do. But I worked for a PR company back in 2006, and I got an email that said marathon. And I said, no way, I'm not doing a marathon. But it wasn't that. It was a contract to permit the marathon from the Gene to Las Vegas, Gene to Sunset Park,
Yeah.
moved it to close the strip. So as part of the effort to do that, the very first one that went down the strip, and I have a financial background. I'm a CPA, and I had to work with the media and watch all these crazy people run by. But the media people were crazier. Sorry if anyone's a media person, but it was just it was a crazy experience. So the next year they had a run group that left right by my house. And all I knew about running was basically you put your shoes on. And so they said, well, if you run the half marathon, you don't have to work. And I was like, yeah, I'm in. What do I need to do? So they
That's
gave me a
funny.
schedule. I'm a CPA. I'm a rule follower. So I follow the schedule. I traveled for a couple weeks. And a lot of you probably remember Tim Kelly. He was the running guru, and he still is running guru around town. Tim Kelly, he says, runners, marathon runners, you're going 9 miles today. And half marathon runners, you're going 6 miles. And I was like, wait, he gave me the wrong schedule. I'm on 9 miles. And I loved my pace group. I loved being out there. I loved learning about endurance sports. So I ran my first marathon, not even thinking that
No.
I was running a marathon so that I didn't have to work. So
So you ran, that was a full marathon instead of
it
the
was a
half?
full marathon, and it was such an amazing experience. And right after that, I met Frank Lowry, and he started talking to me about training for a triathlon. And I was so amazed that it was possible to do a marathon. So I started training for
Hmm.
Silverman, which was such a community event. And that's what, that poster that John has behind him, I have the same one in my garage, because it was just it brought everybody together so well. It was such an exciting time. And Frank was pretty concerned about me. He's like, I'm not sure you're going to make it out of the swim. And I said, well, if I don't, I'm going to put on a volunteer shirt and I'm going to go cheer on all these people that we've been training with since then. And I was one of the last people out of the swim that year, but I made it. And every single minute of that, I was just so amazed that this was really possible. The run used to go through the district. And I remember running through the district and these people are cheering. And I'm like, I'm actually going to do this. I'm going to be able to do this. If I just don't, lay down in the street right now, I only have 2 miles to go. So just that experience of finishing the race and the race and the community. I mean, you saw everyone out there, everyone that you'd seen at the pool, everyone that you'd seen on the streets. It was such an amazing experience. It just made you want more. So, and to get a PR the next year, all I had to do was not change my clothes in between events.
That's funny. Lessons learned.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that is so wonderful. And you just really, summarized the reason why you do things like this. And I mean, this is the best answer I think we've had when you ask somebody, why did you decide to do a triathlon? And you did a marathon, and then that jazzed you up and you said, I can do this. But I've never done Silverman. I did not do that.
Hold on. Let me just
go ahead.
So your first triathlon was Silverman?
It was actually Rage was the practice one, but they canceled the swim that year. So I think I did Las Vegas Tri. I did that one, and then Silverman was my, that was my A race.
Las Vegas Tri would have been a month before or a month and a half before. That is amazing. So
wait. Silverman is a full Ironman, right?
Silverman is a full.
Day and a half.
Oh, you did the half? Yeah. Still, it's an iconic race. Yeah, it's an iconic race, and that's fantastic. It's one of the hardest 70.3s out there. So that is really really neat that you took that on as really your first race. That's awesome.
Yeah. I didn't know any better. Oh, everybody's doing it. Sure, why not?
Was that the year that they swam in Lake Las Vegas, or was it out of Lake Mead?
No, it was 2007.
Okay, so that's Lake Mead. Okay.
So I'm pretty sure you did the full that year.
Yeah. I think I didn't start until 2009 for Silverman.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, this one was the old school, out of the lake, swim towards the island.
Yeah.
There were some pretty steep climbs on there, wasn't there?
But again, I didn't know any better. And when we were training, you'd just be out there with a bunch of people, and they were standing at the top of the sisters, and they're like, yeah, come up here, it's fun. Right. so you're like, you're doing everything you can to not fall over, but these people are all standing up there cheering, so you got to do it. And I think that's part of why we all do this, is that energy you receive from the people that are out there smiling and cheering and holding signs saying you paid to do this.
Oh, that is such a good point. And I mean, I'm actually doing an article right now for the newsletter, and you just hit a lot of high points that I'm going to use here. So, and that's exactly what I've been. Yes. I love your attitude on that.
So I want to dive into that Silverman event, because I love this this perspective that you didn't know any better, but you're standing on the start line. I mean, what was going through your mind on this race? And had you, people must have been talking about how hard it was going to be.
Sure. Frank Lowry was the race director, and then I had been training with him. And like I said, I mean, he was giving me the eye. He's like, I'm not sure you're going to make it out of the swim. I'm not sure about that. You're not, you got to really be on it. You got to make sure that you're going to meet the cutoff. And I think, and I was like, I'm going to, or I'm going to volunteer for the rest of the race. So he was really skeptical.
Oh, I love it. So then you got swim, and then the bike.
I remember getting out of the swim, there weren't a lot of people still left in there. And then I remember changing my clothes into my bike kit. and getting on my bike. And then, just, I just remember it being amazing that I was actually doing a triathlon.
Yeah, wow.
And the fact that it was Silverman just meant that I could be out there with everyone. I didn't know any better. I didn't say, oh, and yes, there was the big hype about it's hard and all of that, but that was the only one here.
Mm-hmm.
What bike did you use? Can I ask?
Yes, there was a somebody at the bike shop didn't really thought, hey, I can make some money off this person. I have this bike sitting here. So they sold me this bike that ultimately ended up being too big for me. And my husband rides it now. Actually, he's an honor trainer, and it's his size. Right. So I didn't know any better. No. So it was some kind of felt that was too big for me. But I made it up with sisters in that felt.
It was a road bike?
It was road bike with aero bars, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I love this.
Sisters are no joke.
Yeah. Okay. So now you're on the bike, and you mentioned Three Sisters, and if people don't know Three Sisters, those are three really steep, short hills that really make you breathe a little bit harder, make that heart pump. What was it like getting to the top of the third one?
Oh, just so thankful. I'm a faithful person, and I was very much thanking God that I made it up there. And I actually was looking forward to it was a false flat after that, and you're just going up the trail, and I was just looking forward to just, please let me just get in a rhythm and be. Mm-hmm. I know I'm done with the sisters. I know I've made it. And I remember meeting some guy and I said, isn't it beautiful out here? And he says, oh, it depends on your perspective. But it was just, that's the whole thing, is just being amazed the whole time that you're actually out there and able to be out there with everyone.
And you know that I've seen good cyclists clip out and push up that hill. Because so that was quite an accomplishment for you to make it up there.
It's because they knew better.
I'm staying on this bike.
I'll tell you, even after getting those Three Sisters, as you said, there's a false flat. I mean, there's no easy on that bike course, and it's still all the way uphill into Henderson. Yep. So then you get off the bike, and you're looking forward to the run, or what was your mindset at that point?
I think the advice that I would give anybody is you have to be in the moment. Someone told me that along the way, and I think it was Karen Lasko, for anyone that knows her. But Karen said, you have to, you can't be thinking about the run when you're on the bike. You can't be thinking about anywhere but where you are. And at first, when you start out, you can be on the bike, let's say, you can be 20 miles ahead. You can be thinking 20 miles ahead. Oh, when I get to that aid station, here's what I'm going to do. And as you get through on the longer tries, as you get closer to being finished, that thought process gets shorter and shorter. You may be 5 miles, thinking 5 miles ahead at that point. But as long as you stay in the moment and do what you can do at that time, that's really where I try to stay. Because if I start running, the bike is my favorite. Running is okay. So I try not to think about the run until I'm actually to the point where I'm pretty close to having to do it.
Well, that's good advice too.
Yes. Helpful for me anyway.
Oh, I love that. Okay. So now you're on the run, and there's no easy on this run either. There's no flat. It's just, you're either going uphill or downhill. And so how did it go? And then I want to hear about crossing the finish line.
The run, that was when the run was that big, you went down Paseo Verde and then up, was it Valley Verde?
I think it was Valley Verde.
Valley Verde. Yeah, I was driving there today thinking about that. But you got to the top, it was kind of loopy, and you got to the top of Carnegie, and you got to run all the way down to the district. And I remember this guy that was a lot younger than me started walking. I said, why are you walking now? This is like free speed. And then he must have seen my age on the back of my leg, because I didn't start doing that. I think I was 36. And he must have seen my age, and he was like, oh, okay, if she's doing it, I'm doing it. And we ran together down the hill, and that was a lot of fun. And then I think just after that, I just really realized I'm going to be able to finish this if I can just, keep the pace, not overdo it, And so I just remember there was that little path that you would come up out of the district and you run on the path to the finish line. And I just remember that path becoming really long, really long. But then the feeling of crossing that finish line was unbelievable.
Oh,
what made it so great? What was the high point of crossing the finish line? Were there people there that you knew, or was it your accomplishment?
I think I'm not a typical athlete. I played softball in high school, but I never considered myself an athlete. I never considered that, when I first started doing that marathon, or when I figured out that I had the wrong schedule, I came home and I said to my husband, I do think I could do a marathon. And if he would have said no, I probably would have agreed with him and just said, yeah, I'm not doing that. But he's like, sure, why not? And if he hadn't have said that, I'm not a typical athlete. I don't know in myself that I could do that. And so crossing that finish line, just being able to say, wow, I could do that. That was surprising to me and a lot of other people. My brother-in-law, when he found out, he's like, you did a half Ironman?
You did.
And then he started doing them.
Oh,
you're making me wonder, Melissa, how many of us are out there that think like that?
yeah.
Because that is they're that's, you're resonating with me, as far as being very similar in that aspect. So
Well, and
I appreciate it. It's a good message.
And what's neat is you end up inspiring other people, and
That's right.
doing what you love and being gracious about what you're doing. That just is infectious, and so that's really that's pretty cool.
Gracious and grateful. You're pleased that you can do that.
Definitely.
All right, so you crossed the finish line. It felt great. How soon after crossing that finish line did you say, I want to do this again?
I think relatively soon. Because I remember talking to somebody about it that had done it with me, and we got finished. And then, maybe a day later we were saying, okay, well, maybe we can do Vineman next year. And that would be awesome. And I remember another person that was with us said, you people have a serious mental deficiency. He said, you should be sitting on the couch eating bonbons, not planning another race. So we actually had shirts made and we put SMD on part of it because that meant crazy. And we did end up doing Vineman the next year. So
another iconic race. You're just checking them off as you go along. All right, so I want to hear a little bit about that one too, because that's a really neat event as well. But I'm curious, given that start in triathlon where you're really starting heavy with the 70.3, how has your training evolved to what you're doing now? How is it adapted, or how is it different, or how is it the same?
Oh gosh, that's a long question. So I liked the 70.3 distance. I ended up, just really focusing on that. And I thought I would never do an Ironman because swimming is not my forte. And so we did one of the races I did, I think it was in Sholo. I placed in my age group and they said, you qualified for nationals. And I was like, national what? And it was, so when I got the information, I told my husband, I said, I really want to go. And it was in Oklahoma that year. So we ended up going to nationals in Oklahoma. I'd never been to Oklahoma, and I booked a hotel that was a very budget conscious hotel. And just so my husband would say yes, that we could go. And when we got to the hotel, he said, you're never booking the hotels again.
Good.
But that was a crazy race because it rained, and it doesn't rain here. I didn't have any experience riding my bike in the rain. At one point in the race, we had to get off our bikes and carry them through the water. So
cyclocross.
Yeah, it was crazy. So, and then on the run, the water had kind of washed our stuff around. So you had to search around where your stuff was. I couldn't find my socks. So I ended up just throwing my shoes on and running, but you were running through standing water. So, my feet were all a mess after that. But I ended up qualifying for Worlds. and Worlds were in Germany, and I have some relatives that had European connections. So they're like, we should go. So we signed up for the Germany race, and the Germany race turned out to be 3 times Olympic. So it wasn't just, ITU didn't tell you what I thought it was going to be like a 70.3 distance. I had tickets, I had flights, my family was going, and it was 3 times an Olympic distance. So the swim was longer than an Ironman. And I was already committed, so I had to go.
4,500-yard swim.
It was I think the swim ended up being like, it was 2.5 miles. It was triple Olympic on the other distances, the other disciplines. So I had to do the swim. So we went to Germany, did the race there. And then when I got back, a friend of mine did Coeur d'Alene, and we went and cheered. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to do this since I had already done a swim, why not? So it kind of evolved like that. About 2014, well, it was 2015, my dad got sick, I have twin boys that were in high school, and everything kind of fell to the wayside. I still ran because that's all I had time for. And I think that's my other piece of advice, is that you just have to be flexible, because life is going to happen. And what can I do? You can always, and for mental benefits too, that was good, just getting out and running and being able to do something. So it really, like, for 4 years, it fell off. And then I started kind of training again, but I was not where I used to be. And then that's when I really started thinking, you know what, it doesn't matter. The times don't matter. Like you're saying, it matters that I'm out here and I'm trying every day to do better than I did yesterday. And if I can't run, then I'm going to swim. And if I can't swim, I'm going to bike, and I'm going to do something to just keep this going. So timing is great, because my first 70.3 back in 6 years was last year at Oregon. So awesome. And it was amazing. You guys are in for a treat if you haven't done it before. It was.
Yeah, I did it last year too. It was wonderful. Such a fun race.
Yes. So yeah, now I'm just trying to keep it together and see what I could do.
Well, I love it. And I'm going to steal what Bob's question was going to be, where he was going to ask you about how you have been able to stay in the sport for such a long period of time. Yep. That longevity, that's not an easy thing to do, especially when you're doing all these challenging races. But you just answered that. And I love this perspective about being flexible. Life is going to happen. And this maturity of an athlete, where the times don't matter, it's the experiences and that you're out there. That's really such a fantastic message to get out.
Yep, you are hitting all of the high points of what we want to teach new triathletes, as far as how important the time is. Nobody remembers your time. They just, they just remember that you're a triathlete and you're a good one.
Well, and I think that goes for, some of the people being out at the Tri Club races. You have to celebrate the wins. You can't be mad at yourself if you don't get the time that you want. Maybe you can learn from it. Maybe you can say, I'm going to swim straighter. That's me. Next time, I'm going to say every 4 strokes until I can get to swim straighter. I don't want my Garmin to look like that zigzag thing. But as long as you can celebrate being able to cross the finish line. And I think it was, I can't pinpoint the year, but let's call it 2009-ish. There was a Tri Club member that got diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And she had wanted nothing more than to do Silverman that year. So that year we had bracelets made in the blue and white. And they said, try for Chris. And the whole Tri Club, we had a banner out at Silverman. All the Tri Club got together. They signed the banner for her. And she still has it in her garage. She survived and she still has it. And her goal was to not leave this earth until she did an Ironman, a full Ironman. So she survived that. She ended up going on to do Ironman Arizona. But that support from the Tri Club, just everybody out there. We had hand cycle athletes that wore that bracelet. You look at those pictures from that year, Frank Lowry on the radio wearing that bracelet with the Tri Club colors. And that's what this is all about, doing it because we can and doing it as a community. And you guys are doing such a fantastic job of putting that together for us.
Did you like read a draft of my article for this newsletter?
No.
You are hitting so many wonderful points that it's like I'm really really impressed as far as talking about the times versus what matters in your legacy. So you're just so wise for as young as you are too.
Oh, so sweet.
Well, and the other thing that we say a lot, and you're echoing this, is triathlon's an individual sport, but we never do it alone, and that importance of community is really really important and impactful. So, and you've been part of that, and you've helped grow the community.
It's been amazing, and it's still so nice to see. I don't know as many people anymore, but I'm gonna change that.
Yes, I love it. All right, so now thinking back on all these different events that you've done, what would you say would be your proudest moment?
So my second Ironman, full Ironman, was Wisconsin. And I just when I finished Coeur d'Alene, I felt like I could do better. And so going into Wisconsin, I really focused on a race strategy and executing the race strategy and trying to make it a better race than I had in Coeur d'Alene, which Coeur d'Alene was great. But I was running in Wisconsin and I wanted to run faster, but I had told myself, you're not going to do it until mile 18. Mile 18 was my plan. And I held myself back. Oh my gosh. And I wanted to test the theory. And so I held myself back, and these two girls ran past me in my age group, and they were talking, and I'm like, nope, follow the plan, because you're never going to know if it works if you don't follow the plan. And so I followed the plan. Mile 18, I still had something left, and I was like, okay, let's go. So mile 18, I start running, and I come up on those girls, and they're walking, and they never even tried to catch me. So, and then my watch had frozen, and I didn't know what my time was going to be. So I turned the corner, and I thought I was about a half an hour later than I was. And so seeing that, and knowing that I followed the plan to see if it worked, and it actually did, and I passed those girls.
Your time there was amazing too, wasn't it? It was like 12:04?
12:03.
Yes, I'm sorry. No,
if you want to
cut that one from you.
Not that we care about times. That time, I was amazed. It was just like trying to test a theory, and it actually worked.
Gosh.
And passing those girls. Did I say that?
And you, another thing that's really impressive is that you never had a failure. You just had a learning. If you ever did anything that didn't work quite right, you learned from it.
Yeah, I did Silverman. The last Silvermans that I did, the full part myself, was in 2014. And I had ended up not being able to train how I want to. And there are certain distances of tries that are not fun if you don't train right. Yeah. So I remember, just being on the run, and you kind of ran behind the pavilion at Green Valley Parkway in Paseo Verde. And I remember kind of being in tears, like, I don't feel like I trained properly for this. But there was a young girl, a friend of mine's daughter, that was there, and she was starting to get into triathlons. She was cheering on that run. Oh. And if she wasn't there, I would have quit. I've never quit. But that time I would have, if she wasn't there. And I told her that,
that makes a difference, doesn't it?
Yeah, having those people there. So yeah, train. If you have that support in this community, you always do. The races here, you always do.
And that's what people remember too, is the support that you give them.
Yeah.
Yep.
So thinking along that same theme, you've given out some great advice here, but do you remember a piece of advice that you were given that you're like, oh, that was really impactful?
Yeah, Frank Lowry said, "Suck it up, Buttercup."
He started that. I love it.
Yeah, there's a time and a place for everything, right?
No, I think that there's so many people have given so many great pieces of advice over the years. When I first started swimming at Masters, one lady told me, when we were swimming with the pole buoy, she's like, you're not meant to kick when you do that.
Mm.
So from that type of advice to just
Yeah.
being in the moment and doing what you can and being, giving back what you want, giving out what you want to get back. You know, there's a lot of wonderful things that have come out of all those pieces of advice, especially don't kick with the pole buoy.
I love it.
Quite a spectrum.
Melissa, this is fantastic. We've already reached our 30 minutes here. Can you believe it?
No.
Oh,
That went by in a heartbeat.
Yeah, this is so great to hear you talk about what you've done in triathlon, how you got into the sport, and where you are. And I really appreciate the perspective that you have on being grateful and being in the moment. And I love the competitiveness that you have too. So that shines a bit too. So Melissa, thank you so much for being on this.
thank you guys for all you do, and to the rest of the Tri Club board and volunteers. You guys make it possible and just keep our community out there and together.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're a walking, talking, inspiration. So I appreciate you. Thanks for being on too.
Thank you, Bob.
All right. Have a nice night, everyone.